know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to blow my McNuggets. You ever go in one of them fast food, sterile burger heavens and try to order a meal without arguing with the girl behind the counter? Ones that I call McZombies. I mean, I walk in this joint and I say, give me your super deluxe burger. And this blonde bimbo what's got IQ to match your bra size says, you want that deluxe burger with cheese? And I says, did I ask for cheese? And I say, and give me a large cola. And Miss Genius, I swear this girl lost her brains one night when her friends was practicing for a taffy pull. Well, Miss Genius says, do you want that giant super-sized cola in a souvenir Happy Puppy cup? And I says, dear, only souvenir cup I want to collect belongs to Dolly Parton, not no Happy Puppy. And then Miss Mushhead says, do you want our golden fries with that order? And I said, no, I would have asked for 'em if I wanted 'em. And she says, how about a golden pie of molten applesauce with that, sir? And I says, geez, horse pucky, chicken squat, hurry fat. So I don't want to cuss at her, she's too young. And then she looks up at me and rings the order up and says, thank you very much, sir. Come again. Wake up, America. I got a hamburger with a hot side and a cold side. What they don't tell you is the counters separate into the smart side and the dumb side. I give you a hint. If you ain't wearing a paper hat and sweating French fry grease, you on the smart side. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizzo. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry I just want to rip my eyelashes off of Tammy Faye Baker with my eyes open. This Sunday I'm reclining. I'm sucking down a couple of long necks, enjoying the game. It's 3rd and 10, about 2 minutes to go, and all of a sudden, ding dong, somebody's at the front door. Well, Pearl and the kids at the mall, so I hurry up, I pull on my pants, I go to the door. Well, this here shamu-looking fat broad in a purple moo-moo is standing on my doorstep. I figure, it's one of Pearl's ugly friends, so I begin to tell her Pearl ain't here right now. But suddenly, Shamu holds up a good book right in my eyes and says, I'm going door to door to proclaim a salvation is at hand. She holds out this ogre hand what's got recessed knuckles, 'cause the fat on her fingers makes her knuckles indented. And I says, I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. And I say salvation may be near, but halftime is over. And I slam a door in her face. So I turned to go back to the game. And I hear glass breaking. Well, fat freighters kicking out the window in my storm door. Well, I fly out that door. I body slam Shamu. I give her a couple of kicks to the kidneys. Only she's fighting like Haystacks Calhoun. And I'm flying through there. She gonna body slam me up against the evergreen, so I drop real low and I tackle her at the ankles. I twist her over and get her into a figure 4 leg lock. Well, she got this purple moo-moo over her head. She's screaming bloody murder. And then she wiggles out of my grip, grabs her purse, crawls over to Dub Maker's house next door before I could catch her. And the next thing I see, she got Dub out of his house up against a vinyl siding, and she's a-throwing haymakers into his gut like she is Rocky Balboa and he is a side of beef. Other than that, not much happened this weekend. Wake up, America! After cops left, I found out something else. If you go argue religion with somebody, make sure they ain't no retired female wrestler. I won't see Jimmy Swaggart wink at this woman. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizzo. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I could spray an entire can of right guard up some sex researcher's nose. It's a do-nothing, mamby-pamby, kiwish-eating, peer-air drinking, foreign car-driving, microscope wimps what come out with these dumb ideas about sex. Now, the latest hunk of garbage is the supposed study what says it's sweat from a woman's armpit works like an aphrodisiac. Well, everybody knows it's sweat under a person's arm is disgusting. Now, if you don't believe me, you come over to my house after Pearl comes in from a mowing the lawn and take a whiff of her armpit. I guarantee that smell ain't gonna put no fire in your loins. You know what I mean? Every time one of these scientific jerks comes up with some sex study, Pearl sees it in Cosmos and gets her panties all in the wad. She spent all last Saturday cleaning real hard and scrimming and cooking in a hot kitchen. Then she come in the living room and said, Earl, do you find my scent exciting? Dub Maker's dog about that time, who was in the living room, turned the tail over his nose and run down to the basement. And I said, Pearl, get your dripping self in the shower now, the living room, before you ruin the smell of my cigar. Now these pinhead scientists, now they're saying that they freeze the sweat, see, in bottles, and they're going to bring it out later on and smear it over women's lips to make them sexy. What kind of chapped sweat stick is this? You ain't going to kiss nobody with frozen armpit sweat on their lips. And I got to wonder who these scientists are anyhow. Probably a bunch of scraggly-headed, hairy-legged, fat she-hogs was too damn lazy to shave under their own arms and trying to convince other women it's natural to have that stuff braided up under there. Wake up, America! Tell these pencil-pushing, commie-fied research geeks how to spend more time working real jobs like real men and working up real sweat that smells real bad. Instead of waiting till the odor goes away and then studying it under some mamby-pamby microscope. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizzo. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me want to pound out a tune on my eardrums with a ball-peen hammer? The other evening, I'm dozing off on the couch after dinner, and I'm having this nice dream involving the Judds, the Mandrell sisters, and a 55-gallon drum of whipped cream. And just when it's starting to get real interesting, I get woke up by this noise that sounded like neutering a bull moose with a chainsaw during an air raid. Well, I sat up, and I found out that it was Earl Jr. playing some kind of garbage on the stereo. And I said, boy, what the hell you think you're doing? He said, I'm playing this record I got for Christmas by Def Leppard. He said, Daddy, how come parents don't like rock and roll music? How come you looking at me like that? You don't understand kids. I told this little pinhead, first of all, a pack of leather-wearing, long-haired, screeching, dope addict, Satan-worshipping, fruit basket geeks don't know nothing about playing no rock and roll. I mean, you can't understand none of the words. You wouldn't want to if you could, 'cause it's idiotic. Plus, it's just too dang loud. They're always doing weird stuff, like biting the heads off live bats and crapola. Real rock and roll people didn't do nothing like that. Hell, you never heard about Jerry Lee Lewis or Elvis doing anything weird? Well, then all these scumballs all dress weird, too. Hell, Bruce Springsteen is a multi-millionaire. Looks like something in a Salvation Army soup kitchen line. And you never seen Elvis dress up like them pinheads. Elvis always wore something tasteful, like a nice sequin gold lame jumpsuit. And when I was a kid, we had rock and roll that made sense, like Hound Dog, Louie Louie, Long Tall Sally, Groovy Grubworm. Them was classics, done by talented musicians. Wake up, America! One of these days, people will be saying that Elvis and Little Richard was a Bach and Beethoven of rock and roll. And as for understanding kids, I understand they all morons. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizzo. makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to pull the taste buds off my tongue with a pair of dirty tweezers. I'm shopping with my old lady the other day. We stand in the checkout line. I see this story on the front of this magazine. I don't know it. What U.S. News World Report or Midnight Tatler, one of them. Anyway, this headline says this woman sold her kidney for a house full of new furniture. I mean, like she got a living room set, a new dinette, 4 chairs, and even some of them occasional tables. And I says, hey, Pearl, look at this woman. She sold a kidney for some new furniture. Pearl said, yeah, so? And I said, so this. It's about time I got a new recliner. And you don't go to the bathroom nearly as much as I do. So why don't you fork over a vital organ like this saintly woman on the magazine cover? I mean, a little kidney ain't too much to ask for the man who puts food on your table and puts a roof over your head. And Pearl says, you ain't got your own kidney, Earl. And I said, you kidding? The way I drank? I mean, I can't remember a Friday night where I didn't wish I had 3 kidneys. Well, anyways, to make a long story short, Pearl still got her kidneys, and I still need a new recliner. Maybe some night when she's sleeping. Wake up, America. This is a good idea. If you gonna sign one of them owner-donor cards, make sure your family at least gets some furniture out of it, even an end table or something. I'm Earl Pitts, America. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just won't lay a ruler across the good hands of some all-state agent. That pointy-headed ambulance chasing insurance agent keeps sending me insurance come-on garbage in the mail. First, they want me to protect my health, protect my family, protect my car, protect my house. God! I got this piece of mail last week that offered me accidental dismemberment insurance. Notice they don't want to cover me for intentional dismemberment, just accidental. So old Pearl is reading this letter, and she's getting kind of excited. Says, Earl, if you pay $10 a month and you lose your right eye, they'll pay you $2,000. So I look at the letter. Sure enough, they got a dismemberment menu. Yeah, it's a menu. Like a smorgasbord of what you can lose, or what they'll pay. They only gonna pay you like $20 a piece for toes. I guess it works kind of like a rebate coupon. You send them a bloody big toe, and they send you back $20. Except I don't know what they doing with all them dismembers at their offices. It's kind of interesting idea. But I think I'll keep my members. Thank you. Wake up, America! Old Dub Baker comes to my house and says, Earl, how'd you afford that new boat in your driveway? And I said, why, Dub, that boat cost me an arm and leg. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me want to go on a diet of peanuts, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks? The other day I was sitting there watching some old World Series highlights on ESPN. Earl Jr. was sniveling and whining. I finally got sick of listening to his whine and told him to shut his face while I went outside and got the hot glue gun and shit it for him. Then he starts going on, but Daddy, I saw this lady on TV on the Geraldo show, and she was talking about how Wade Boggs is a sex addict. And now, my hero Steve Garvey's having lots of babies with ladies he wasn't even married to. Daddy, I thought that baseball players was perfect, and they ain't. Well, I figured that little weasel was disillusioned. I mean, I remember finding out that some of my heroes weren't perfect. Well, hell, only Japanese that John Wayne ever killed in the war was in the movies, 'cause the Duke was 4F. That hurt when I found that out. I had to explain it. Most men is sex addicts, and most baseball players is real men. Not a bunch of limp-wristed, quiche-eating fruit baskets like them Hollywood weirdos. I had to explain to EJ that baseball was pure sex. When people start talking about getting to first base and second base and third base and scoring, well, that's baseball talk too. When people talk about Wade Boggs and Steve Garvey swinging a big bat, they may not be talking about baseball. If you think about it, with this gambling stuff in Pete Rose, there's more than one reason to call Pete Charlie Hustle. If EJ want any proof that baseball players is real men, he was getting plenty from Wade Boggs and Steve Garvey and Pete Rose. Wake up, America! Ain't nothing wrong with being a sex addict and playing baseball. If you're married to somebody like my old lady, you tend to spend a lot of time riding the bench anyway. Oh, you can relate to that, huh? I'm Earl Pitts, America. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to pluck out my eyebrows with the help of a pit bull. It's all this misunderstanding about body hair. Little Earl Jr. comes down the kitchen table the other morning. He's standing behind me a couple minutes. I started getting unnerved. I said, AJ, what are you doing back here? He said, Daddy, did you know you got big hairs growing out of your ears? And I said, son, a real man is a hairy field full of hormone fertilizer. The more manly you are, more hair you got on your body. It's simple as that. See, you can always tell how masculine a guy is by seeing all the places he's got hair. For example, his nose, his ears, his toe knuckles. I was in a Marines with this guy who was so manly, whenever he took a shower, he had to get a hairdryer and blow dry his back. We all called him Gorilla, out of respect. Because you got to respect the man's got more body hair than you got. Something weird about these extra hair spots on a man's body, too. I yanked one of them hairs out of my ear the other day, and I looked at it real close. It don't look like head hair, and it ain't arm hair. Fact is, it ain't that other kind of body hair neither. The kind I can't say on radio, but if you ever showered in the Marines, you know what I'm talking about. No, this hair is different. I call it novelty hair. And men, the older you get, the more your hormones turn inward and start producing novelty hair. Wake up, America. You walking down the beach someday and you see a barefoot man coming walking at you, and he's got a flat top haircut on the knuckles of his big toe. Well, you know he's a real man. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to snap off my arm at the elbow. I'm reading where these hoodoo Hollywood actresses is actually having silicone implants in their lips. That's right. They get silicone injected into their faces, so they got big old pouty lips, see? Ain't that about the silliest thing you ever heard of? Everyone knows that silicone's got two uses. It makes a great bathroom tub caulk, and it makes a great set of hooters. And any Hollywood tush hog award-winning actress is gonna tell you you can get a lot farther with a great set of hooters than a great set of lips. For example, Suzanne Summers. Hell, I can't even tell you what her lips look like. Lonnie Anderson. She could have a mustache. I wouldn't have noticed. See, your great actresses got the silicone where it's going to do the most good. And look how far they got. Enough said. Now, this is just a symptom of Hollywood cosmetical surgery run amok. That's what it is. It's this new age bimbo thing. You take your basic Hollywood starlet, you take away her fake hair, her fake eyes, fake lips, fake hooters, fake butt, and what you got? Phyllis Diller. See, silicone is a woman's answer to steroids, artificially pumping up body parts for maximum performance. And amen for maximum performance. Wake up, America! Yo, big, fat, pouty lips. Step in the ring with Mike Tyson. I bet you Robin Givens didn't need no silicone implants in her lips. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. know what makes me sick? You know what makes me want to use a 12-gauge Winchester to change channels on my TV like Elvis? The other night, Pearl was sitting there straining her brain trying to work that real difficult TV guide crossword puzzle. She was trying to figure out this word that went in between Starsky blank Hutch. It had 3 letters. The first one was A, and the third one was D. Well, I asked her what was on TV, and she said, well, we had to choose between Unsolved Mysteries, America's Most Wanted, Crime of the Century, and some other crapola. What the hell's going on? When I turn on the TV, I expect to be entertained. I ain't there to be enlisted into some damn posse looking for a criminal with one eyebrow shoplifted pantyhose from the Woolworth store in Medford, Oregon. Or reenactments of some crook taking 2 papers out of the USA Today rack when they only paid for 1. And I don't give a rat's patoot about some dimwit investing a couple of $1,000s from some savings and loan company in Massachusetts. I want Sudan Summers jumping rope in a wet T-shirt. I want some Chuck Woolery devastating impromptu witticisms on Love Connection. I want to see Vanna White spinning them letters round and selling vows. I want real entertainment. These network pinheads call this garbage reality programming. What they really mean is it's real cheap to make. And I don't want reality. I got all the reality I can use every day when I go to work or have to pay the bills. I'm overdosed on reality. I want that cheap and sleazy programming like the sex tapes. Wake up, America! If I want to watch real crime drama, I'll cruise down to 7-Eleven and watch a nightly hold-up. But hell, that's reality programming. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me want to tell everybody? I'm not a right-wing fanatic, but I play one on radio. Men, remember when the only time you'd hear a woman swear? Well, once you find out how much you lost playing poker. Used to, women wouldn't say crapola if they had a mouthful of it. But have you heard these dames lately? Well, at the market, I cut in front of this gal at the checkout line. She started cussing me up one side and down the other. Well, ain't no woman gonna cuss me out. So I'll let her have a few 4, 6, and 12-letter words on my own. Well, I've seen women all over stores running up, threatening to do things to me with a cucumber. I ain't never seen no cookbook. I am appalled. Where are women learning these words anyhow? At Tupperware parties? I mean, they offer a list of obscenities with every lettuce crisp. Is Avon selling dictionaries with naughty words underlined for women? Well, I guess I'm old-fashioned, but it don't seem right for me to whistle at some 19-year-old and then hear her calling me names that raises questions about my mama and papa's marital status. You women out there cussing, I hope your mamas never hear this, 'cause it'd break their hearts. Wake up, America! Women, if you just have to cuss, save it for the one time it'll do some good. A bedroom ain't nothing turns a man on like hearing some women quoting letters from Penthouse verbatim. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizza. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just won't clean my ears out with the help of an 80-pound air compressor. Ain't nothing worse on this earth than some free-loping, cheese-head neighbor what takes the opportunity when you're away to prance over to your house to show your old lady his new power tool. I mean, he wants to show he's got a better tool than you. Makes me sick. I come home other night and Pearl says, Earl, while you's at work, the sink sprung a leak. So I called John Charman 'cause he works second shift. Anyhow, he come over and fixed it. And by the way, Earl, you know he's got a 1/2-inch Black & Decker reversible cordless drill? So I'm steaming. I say, Pearl, two things. It don't take no 1/2-inch cordless reversible drill to change a washer in a sink. And number two, it don't matter what kind of tool a man's got. It's how he uses it. I mean, I could out-repair John Charman with a Phillips head screwdriver and a strip head and a roll of electrical tape. Oh, no. Some men's like that. They can't wait till you turn your back so they can wave a new power tool in front of your wife's face. I guess just the same way that women compete with their hairdos, their new clothes, men compete with what kind of tools they got. I mean, some men got a hammer and a pair of pliers. And some men, like Earl Pitts, got the Shopsmith Home Workshop. Wake up, America! If you think some women gonna pull up stakes and move in with you, just 'cause your weed whacker's got a bigger horsepower, well, good luck. I'm Earl Pitts, America. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry I just want to nail a cat to a tree? It's these weenie programming genius geeks at the ABC TV network. It come around the new TV season, and it becomes painfully obvious that Dolly Parton's TV show ain't back on this year. Them yellow-bellied, know-nothing, mamby-pamby, floor-shine shoe-wearing yuppie pinheads has gone and canceled our little buxom darling. You know how much I like the Dolly show? I tell you, I'd write her a fan letter, that's right. I'll even compose an I Love You Dolly poem to her. But them weenie heads done ruined everything. My poem to Dolly went like this. Dear Miss Dolly, I love your show. I love your singing, too. I love the way you fix your hair, your pretty dress and shoes. I love the way you sing your songs. You really belt them hits. But what I really love the most, I really love your... And that's where I was going to write TV show. Dolly, all I can say is, bye-bye. Wake up, America! If them spineless ABC big shots come to work someday and they tarred and feathered, it ain't gonna be no unsolved mystery, 'cause Earl Pitts is gonna be public suspect number one. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pitts. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to rip out Brenda Vaccaro's vocal cords. I mean, if they ain't already been done by nature. You know, women's got this severe biological advantage on us men. I'm telling you, it ain't fair. Let me give you, for instance, of what I'm talking about. Let's say I come home at night, and I'm all steamed up and angry. And Pearl, my old lady, says, what's the matter, Earl? And I says, shut up, woman, and make me some dinner. And then I paddle EJ's butt and cheer him out because of his report card. Then I go off in front of the TV and watch soap operas and pout all night. And finally, Pearl stands in front of me and demands, who set you down on a cactus today? And I feel bad, and I start to cry, and I say, I'm sorry, honey, I must be having PMS. Gee-yaw! I mean, men ain't got this all-encompassing excuse to use whenever we want to be jerks. Well, I figured, a woman probably lays in bed in the morning before she gets up and says to herself, I think I'll be a total butthead today. That's it. I'll be an irrational creep, and I'll blame it on my hormones. Far as I can tell, PMS stands for premeditated stupidity. Pearl comes up to me the other day and she said, Earl, I'm sorry about the other day when I smashed your bowling ball with the sledgehammer. It must have been PMS. I thought she was playing He-Man croquet in the kitchen. I won't tell you something about raging hormones, men. Stay clear, 'cause it can turn some sweet little young thing into the Incredible Hulk. Wake up, America! This PMS stuff ought to bring back the family fallout shelter. I mean, someplace for Dad and the kids to hide till Mom gets back to normal. Think about it. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry I just want to open up and say, with a mouthful of half-eaten bologna sandwich? I go to work at the shop the other day, and my foreman come up to me and he said, Earl, you're excused to go to the med center for a physical and a drug test. I kind of blanked a couple of times, cleared my throat, and I eloquently replied, what the hell are you talking about? And the boss says, new company policy. You got to have an annual physical and drug test to maintain your employment. So I'm thinking I want to maintain that. So I go to some sterile, money-sucking doctor's office. I sit in the waiting room catching up on the latest in the 1986 issue of People magazine. And then some drill sergeant pasty-faced nurse invites me into this room, gives me a little plastic cup and tells me to give her a sample. But about this time, I'd like to give her a knee in the kidneys. But instead, I go in this little bathroom and I come up with a little liquid offering, if you know what I mean. Kind of embarrassing and degrading, but hell, this is an embarrassing and degrading time we live in. And then this pimple-faced, stethoscope-wearing youngster pops in my room saying he's a doctor. Checks my heart, checks my lung, he checks my throat and my eyes, and then he tells me to drop my drawers. And I says, not till Nurse Battle Axe leaves the room. And she said, anything you got, Earl Pitts, I seen before. And I said, not unless I was real drunk one night. Are you as real beautiful in another lifetime? Wake up, America! You know why they tell you to turn your head and cough? 'Cause when you turn your head, you can't see them laughing. I ain't paranoid. I'm Earl Pitts, American. Pitts off. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to staple my tongue to a 2x4. I'm reading in the paper where the Soviet Union has conducted this scientific poll about living in Russia. So they found these Kremlin-kissing Ruskies, and you know what they said? The common man in Russia said he thinks life is better in the United States. Well, thank you, Comrade Columbo. And excuse me if nobody's surprised. I mean, comparing that vast communist wasteland known as the Soviet Union to our ample waves of grain, well, it's kind of unfair. It's like comparing the joy of having oatmeal for breakfast to honeymooning with Winona Judd. Which is one honeymoon I wouldn't mind if Mama come along. The Russians what answered that poll said that though America had better health care, better food, and a better standard of living, they still won't live in the Soviet Union. Now, if you ask me, they're just a little PO'd because we got something else they ain't got. Toilet paper. The Russians say they don't have good food, they don't have enough clothes, but they love living in the Soviet Union. That makes them underfed, underclothed, and stupid. But then I'm thinking, of course, they gonna say they love living in Russia. I mean, let's say you living in Moscow with 50 of your closest relatives in a one-bedroom apartment, and suddenly some mysterious voice calls you on the phone and asks you if you love living in Russia. What are you gonna say? I mean, yeah, it's wrong, and before you can say Olga Korbut, you shoveling snow at one of them Soviet goulash archipelagons. Wake up, America! Of course, the polls show that the average Russian likes living there. They're scared merciless not to. You people need me to do your thinking for you all the time. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizza. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me want to eat a pile of night crawlers and then go deep throat kiss a catfish? Well, it seems that some so-called genius is saying that people got to be careful when they eat this Japanese delicacy what them pure-air-sucking, kiwish-eating liberal goofballs call sushi. Seems there might be a little worm crawling around in that stuff. What's gonna make a person's belly feel like it's been mixing Mad Dog and Old Crow all night? Well, ain't that some kind of revelation? What the hell do you expect if you order up a plate of that slimy raw garbage? You think some cook is gonna stand in the kitchen and pluck every little worm out with a pair of tweezers? Hell no. And then somebody comes up with the idea, it's a test of real manhood to eat this sushi stuff, hoping there ain't a piece of poison fish in the pot what's gonna make you sort of bust like a water balloon. Oh yeah, that's real manly, all right. Why not just pitch a .35 Magnum on the table and play a friendly game of Russian roulette? Jeez, why bother telling these doofus brains they ought to watch out for real bad sushi when they're too stupid to cook the food in the first place? Hey, just let them eat that crap and watch eyes shoot out of their heads and their hair fall out and then their brains explode. That's what I like to watch. On TV, maybe a show. Next thing you know, some yippee commie mallet head will be suing the restaurant because they served up a bad piece of raw fish. And a bunch of zit-faced greaseball lawyers will be making all kinds of money because of this. That's typical. Wake up, America. When I catch a big catfish, I fry that sucker up in real good butter and cornmeal before I eat it. What do you think? I'm gonna pull him out of the lake, take a big bite, and throw him back? Next thing you know, these mushroom brains will be running around eating live chicken. There's a word for people that eat live chickens, by the way. It's called circus geek. I'm Earl Pitts, American Pizza. You know what makes me sick? You know what makes me so angry? I just want to iron the side of my face with a waffle iron. These sobby newspaper biddies what dispense a newspaper advice column. I'm talking about Ann Landers and her evil twin, Dear Abby. I mean, they always answering some stupid question from perplexed in awe or heartbroken in Akron. Hell, if I lived in Akron, I'd be heartbroken too. Ain't no reason to write no letter, though. So anyway, as a service to my listeners, I present Dear Earl. Hit the music there, Perk. Thank you. I got some letters here from listeners who want wisdom from yours truly. Our first letter here come from Jake in Cleveland, and Jake said, Dear Earl, what's the difference between a tush hog and a tush honey? Well, Jake, technically I'd say about 30 pounds or so. Next one here. This is from Skeeter in Tampa, and Skeeter writes, Dear Earl, what are you supposed to do with that little green fruit? What comes on the top of a bottle of that Mexican Corona beer? Well, Skeeter, I weren't too sure myself at first, and one day I was screwing around, I took an old shoelace, and I threaded it through the fruit, and I hung it up on my rear-view mirror of my pickup. Makes a great air freshener. Next one here, from Denny in Denver, and Denny writes, Dear Earl, is it okay to take off your baseball cap when they playing the national anthem at a ball game? Well, Pearl, keep playing. Thank you. Benny, and only 3 times when it's proper for a real man to take off his baseball cap. Number 1 is during the national anthem. Number 2 is when you taking a shower and you plan to wash your hair. And number 3 is when you're having sex indoors. Wake up, America! Remember this, when you need complex answers about life in the U.S., Earl Pitts is full of it. I'm Earl Pitts, America. Pitts on.